A few weeks back, XD, the creators of Torchlight Infinite, asked me if I could do a updated review of the game. And since this game has gone through quite a bit of updates over the last year, I said yes, but only under the condition that I can say whatever I want. They said sure. So here we are. If you think that this will somehow influence my opinion, then that's fine. You can look up other creators that have their own opinion about it. But once we're in the negative section, I'm pretty sure you're going to realize that I'm going to say basically everything I'm thinking about this game. At this point, I think 1,100 hours in this game, and I think I have a pretty good grasp on what's going on in general. Torchlight Infinite is a Chinese ARPG that is being ported to Western audiences. It is both available on mobile and PC. Personally, I have nothing to do with mobile gaming, so this is only for the PC version. And in general, I think that this game is one of the most underrated, if not the most underrated ARPG on the market. I think that if you're an ARPG veteran and the only games you're thinking about are Last Epoch, D4, and PoE, you are missing out here. It is at least something that you should be looking into. There are upsides and downsides. We're going to talk about all of that throughout this video. But in general, this game is a ton of fun. Not only is it a ton of fun, it is the epitome of looks can be deceiving. When I first started this game, I thought it would be like a little bit of fun on the side, but I very quickly realized with how much content there was coming out and how many updates there are, just how intricate this game would be now at this point, around about 1.5 to 2 years after release. This game is incredibly vast and you can easily sink hundreds to 1,000 or more hours into it. But for that, I have more specialized sections. There will be timestamps down below, or I don't know, you see them on the video anyways, but so you can jump to wherever you want. But let's start with the details. First, what do I like about this game? First, this game is made to be fun. Now, you might say, Pal, that is obvious. That's what every game is made for, but it is a little bit more difficult. And I think a lot of people who play a lot of ARPGs or a lot of games in these genres in general will kind of know what I mean. This game is not trying to be hardcore. It is not trying to be absurdly difficult. It is not trying to get you annoyed. It isn't trying to be tedious. It isn't trying to have friction or whatever it is called. Its first thing that it wants to be is fun. And it gets as close to that goal as possible without being a simple spreadsheet. Quality of life in this game goes first. That is probably the best way to put it. As little UI clicks as possible. Whenever there's a new league mechanic, whenever there's anything in the game, if there are clicks that are unnecessary, that are annoying to people, they will be patched out. Everything is very smooth and fun. The game has an auto loot function that basically makes it so small currencies are being picked up. The game has an in-game loot filter without having to screw around with anything for party. There is a fully functional auction house, which isn't perfect in terms of search bar or whatever, but it is doing what it's supposed to do, and it's not annoying. You can put up your stuff for trade, go to sleep, next day you wake up, and you can collect your currency. If you're crafting something, the game will exactly tell you what your chances are. It will tell you the tiers, everything exactly in detail without you having to consult a wiki. In fact, this game sort of has an inbuilt wiki with the help section right here, basically explaining everything you need to know. So that's kind of what I mean with this game is just meant to be fun. There is no pretentiousness. There is no, oh, if you can't have 10 tabs open, then I guess you can't play the game. Everything that they think is going to be fun in the game is going to get implemented. And this is something that has been very clear from Season 1 onwards, because if you look at some of my old videos, you will see a lot of complaints that I have get obliterated over time by them basically implementing solutions to them, which I'm very, very impressed by. Another thing I'm impressed by are their league mechanics. So in case you guys are unaware, this game has league cycles. Every 3 months, there is a new cycle coming out, and you have a new mechanic that gets added to the game. Not only does it get added temporarily, after those 3 months are over, it will also get implemented into the base game. As an example, the last mechanic was Mistville. What you do here is it's basically, the shortest description I could give of it is sort of Darkest Dungeon. This is actually my favorite season yet. And what you basically do is you're going through these corners, you're going to see stuff, you're going to explore, and you are getting to new zones where you can find caches. While you're doing this, you can find artifacts that make you run better, kind of like a roguelite. And it is kind of a completely different way to play the game. If I had to compare it to PoE terms, there's a lot of specializations you can have, for example, as if you were a delver or a heister in PoE. And these mechanics are incredibly fun, and they are fun on release. They're polished, they're not annoying, they are just well thought out. If you want to see some other mechanics like that, you can also check out my older videos. I have a little bit more details there. Now, there is a downside to what I just said. If you're, for example, somebody who plays hardcore in every game, you're all about meticulous gameplay. You don't really care about, I don't know, games where you just absolutely mow through hordes of monsters where you have to min-max your character, and at some point you just feel like a god. If that is not for you, then this game is also probably not for you. Number 2, this game has a ridiculous amount of character customization. Now, this game has a lot of systems. If you're somebody who wants an easy game, this game might at some point overwhelm you. At the start, it definitely introduces everything step by step, so I think it does a pretty good job at that. But if you're somebody who just wants to turn their brain off completely when it comes to character customization, sure, you can follow build guides, but in general, there is a lot of things to think about. If you're somebody who loves min-maxing skill trees, items, stuff like that, this game will be an absolute paradise for you. And there's even more to this than what I'm going to show you right here, but in general, it starts at the character you're choosing at the start of the game. For example, I'm currently on Rosa. This character has very specific stuff to do, and it has certain character traits that unlock at certain level points. These are not just like absolute easy stat points that you can just like kind of weigh against each other. They're very unique effects, and you can at any point swap these out. For example, if one is better for clear, one's better for single target, or if one better fits your playstyle. So that is where your build kind of starts. And then under this, you also have hero memories and hero relics. You can have one relic, and it is basically an item that has certain very specific mods, and in that, you can put memories. For example, this one right here, and these are super specific to your character and have completely different stats on each and every character. Now, just so you know, all of these might get changed at some point. They're currently going through all the UIs and basically reworking them. So I can just tell you, I don't know which of these are going to stay this way and which are going to be reworked, but they definitely want a lot of these systems to look more like PC. But in general, this is the system. I'm just going to real quickly completely respec my tree from the get-go. So reselect. You start here. You basically choose a goddess. So you choose God of Might, God of Knowledge, God of War. They all have different specs. So at first, for example, let's say I go for God of War. You have your own passive tree right here. At 12 points allocated and 24 points allocated, you get a talent. This basically specializes your build into, I don't know, physical damage, elemental damage. You can go more defensive. You can go for fervor. You don't need to know yet what that means, but basically now you took God of War. That means that your second class will also be in God of War. So inside your specialization, you have to pick a second class. Let's, for example, go for the Ranger. And once you put points in here, you will also progress. So for example, at 16 points, you get another talent here. And then at 32, another talent. Now you get to your third passive trait. And just so you kind of have an idea, this third passive tree is roundabout after you completed the campaign, and the third passive tree you can pick from any specialization that you want. So you basically have complete freedom to adjust your character as you want. And then behind me, you will also see a fourth thing here, and that is the, how I call it, Tetris system, or the Statue of the New God. This looks really innocent at first, but it is one of the most intricate systems in the game, actually. So you will see these slates that have certain effects. For example, minus sealed mana, plus mana, gains fervor, blah, 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 right? Okay, pretty straightforward. I can install it, put it somewhere here, and then boom, it's here, and now I have all the mods. Now, as many as possible of these I can put in here, as much as the space allows me to, and you can also adjust the shape and whatnot, so it kind of fits neatly together. But there's way more to this, because there are a ton of legendary divinity slates that do very weird things. For example, copy a certain mod, like the most bottom mod from the next slate. Then there's one that copies the top mod, one that copies all of the mods. It's groovy. There's so many things to do in this system that in general, min-maxing will take you forever. But it's also something that's super easy. At the start, all you do is you just get some extra stats. But if you're somebody who likes to tinker with these kind of things, you will love this. And chances are you will never get the perfect setup unless you put a ton of time in. But that is basically your passive tree. After that, we have the skill system. This is basically just your general skill system. I really hope that this one will be polished up. It's one of my least favorite UIs in general. So basically what I have here, I already put this character together, but let's say I'm like a Shadow Swamp build, right? Like you have, it's very reminiscent to PoE. You have your main skill in the middle, and then you have support gems here that basically modify what your skill does. And there's not really much more to say to it. It's a very elegant solution. I guess if I would say something that does make it different from other ARPGs is Torchlight lets you automate a lot of stuff, but only once you get into endgame. The way Torchlight functions is, like I said earlier, it doesn't want you to have too much friction. But early on, it kind of goes through teaching you the build. You have to actually press buttons and whatnot. And over time, you can sacrifice some of your power to basically automate annoying skills that, for example, I don't know, stuff that you cooldowns, for example. So you don't need like, I don't know, some kind of macro to do it or whatever. You can basically build your own macros in the game. Not to be said that there's not still upsides to pressing your buttons, but if you want a smooth playstyle, it is possible. Then we have the itemization system, which is very straightforward. Like I said, this will look very different in the new game. I don't know when these UIs are going to come out, but apparently they're going to kind of come out with the next leak. But either way, pretty straightforward. You have prefixes, you have suffixes. There is going to be a big legendary overhaul in the latest patch, but just so you know, there is a ton of chase uniques in this game. If you're somebody who likes stuff like Mage Blood, Headhunter, there is plenty of those things to chase. And some of them are incredibly rare, some of them are incredibly powerful, and it gives you full character customization. And once again, the itemization system is also helped out a lot by the auction house that makes it a lot easier to acquire your items real quickly. And the last one is the pact system, which is my least favorite system because it has to do with some of the gacha that is in the game, which we're going to talk about when it comes to monetization. But at the very baseline, if I cancel all of the stuff right here, what you have here is another passive tree that basically gives you different stuff. So for example, here you have the defensive side with a little bit of mana regen, Res minus damage taken. You have general damage nodes, more damage. And down here you have stuff like extra drop quantity, and so on. Now then we have number 3, which are the endgame systems. In general, this game has a very fun and rewarding endgame loop. It is about killing mobs, looting stuff, then, I don't know, if you find something, craft on it, maybe sell your currency that you found, buy something else that you need from the auction house. It is a very coherent, simple, and fun system. There are things that are very similar to maps, which are called beacons, kind of like zones that you can zone into, loot, then get out of there. There are bosses, and there are some other stuff that we're going to talk about right here. This is the mapping system, and very quickly, there are different tiers to this. There are time marks right behind me, which are basically tiers of maps, and it goes from 1 all the way to 8. There are a lot of different beacons, which are basically maps. I think you know the drift. They are different layouts. You kill the boss, you collect loot. You have different mechanics in there depending on how you kind of manipulate the systems. And when it comes to systems, I'm talking about these trees right here. This just got reworked this league. We used to have like a system with like a card deck that you can kind of manipulate and has like passive bonuses. Now you basically have complete new passive trees for each of these mechanics. And this is just one of them, 1 of 10 or something. And you can completely customize what you want in these maps. Now showing you what exactly you would get wouldn't really come across all that well. It doesn't really mean anything to you. But in general, just know that you can exactly customize the kind of loot that you want in your maps. Each one of these tile sets has different mini bosses, which then get to the Rift of Dimension where you fight the Traveler. This is only one of the many endgame bosses and is basically like completing the Atlas, like you would say in Path of Exile. After that, you also have the Great Void, where there is a incredible arrangement of absurdly hard bosses. They range from doable to ridiculous. Like I'm talking about some of these bosses you won't be able to do unless you have a ridiculous character. Then there's also the Path of the Brave, which is basically just a level system where you fight waves of monsters. It goes from a 1 to 45. You can start at different levels depending on how strong you are, but it's basically just a system where you see how far you can get. After that, you have 7 different league mechanics with this League 7. Different league mechanics, some of them are only implemented in maps, and some of them are completely standalone. Like the mechanic I showed you earlier with the Mistville, and there is also stuff like Twin Nightmare. There is the City of Eterna, basically stuff that I would equate to like Delve or Heist in PoE, stuff that you can completely specialize in and you never even have to enter maps if you don't want to. You can kind of specialize in your own niche, can kind of control a certain aspect of the market. In general, these endgame systems are extremely vast and take a while to learn. So it is something, once again, if you're somebody who likes to dive into these games, you won't really run out of stuff to learn, but do not think that you are just straight going to master all of those. More often than not, especially when it comes to the bosses, it will take you quite a while. Now, number 4, and these are some random things that didn't really fit anywhere else. First up, this game has an in-game hero ranking, which if you want to compare it to PoE again, would be like PoE Ninja, where you can basically look at what heroes people were playing. So for example, here you can see the rankings, who's level 100, goes all the way down to 99, 98, what skills they played, what support skills they used, what kind of passive skill tree, what gear they even used. So all of these you can take and kind of see if there's other people who do something similar to you, and maybe you can get some ideas from them. Once again, I will highlight the auction house, which there is no better feeling than in this game to, I don't know, in the morning when you log into the game, look at your history, and you just have, I don't know, sales. Even here, I still have sales that, yeah, you just get passive currency. You don't have to have the game open. You can just chill, log in whenever you want, and everything is in there for sale. Another thing I really appreciate is being able to reduce screen clutter while playing. You can reduce skill effect brightness, transparency, all of that stuff depending on your needs. Some of the skills seem incredibly bright and flashy, but if you want to, you can actually see what's going on the screen. Also, another thing is frequent updates. Now, as for the crafting system, this will actually get reworked this league completely, but all you have to know is it's kind of like a mixture of deterministic crafting and sort of luck, but it is not full randomness. So I would maybe call it in like a mixture of Path of Exile and Last Epoch. So for example, there's prototype crafting and targeted processing. You kind of start out locking certain mods in that you want on the item. You can then craft on that with certain currencies, and at the end, you can add pinpoint exactly what you want. But that stage at the end is also very expensive. But do note that a lot of these things will change. All in all, what I can say about crafting right now, it has gone through a lot of evolutions over time. I think they have a really good grasp on crafting, and I usually have a lot of fun with it. The amount of reworks and stuff that this game changes every league is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know where they take the time, but they sure like reworking stuff and adding new stuff. That is for sure. You're not going to run out of things to do. I'm going to put this somewhere in the middle, but when it comes to stuff like graphics, music, voice acting, this is something that you just kind of have to feel out for yourself. Like I said, it is a free-to-play game. The graphics, I grew up with Torchlight 2, so I don't need realistic blood or, I don't know, skeletons in my games to enjoy an RPG. I care more about systems. I care about how fun the game is. But if you don't like this kind of like goofy, cartoonish, maybe sometimes even anime-ish style, then I can totally understand that. When it comes to music, it's kind of like a, I guess I have a little bit of an opinion there. Some of the tracks are actually pretty damn good. Some of them are kind of cheesy. When it comes to voice acting, it's really not my style. It's kind of like goofy-ish. But unless you're looking for like an RPG, Witcher 3 experience or something like that, which you're not going to get here, like immersive kind of gameplay style, I don't think any of this is going to bother you. The UI, like I said, is something that will change. I don't have exact pictures right now. They didn't really provide me with anything. But this is the next thing they're going to work on. They basically want the PC experience to be very different from the mobile experience, and I do appreciate that, but I can't really give you anything on that until it's actually out. Now, enough glazing of the game. Let's talk about some of the downsides, with the biggest and the first one I want to talk about being the monetization. If you simply want to know whether this game is pay to win, then yes. There are shades, however. There is Diablo Immortal on the one end where it's like, this is ridiculous, and then there's stuff that is very ethical, at least in my opinion, like Path of Exile, but you could still argue, oh, stash traps or something. Torchlight is somewhere in the middle, and we're going to talk about all of these aspects. I put them into 4 points right here. Cosmetics, Battle Pass, Heroes, and Pets. 3 of these I'm fine with. 1 of them I'm not. Let's go over cosmetics first. Cosmetic is pretty straightforward. Look at the shop. I'm going to tell you right here, I don't know much about outfits. I don't really care. None of them give you any advantage when it comes to your character. You can have special effects for your skills. I mean, these just depend on your whatever you like, right? I can't really tell you much about it. However you want your character to look. All I know is that some of them are behind loot boxes, some of them aren't. They kind of rotate or whatever. Either way, it's cosmetics. I don't really care too much about it. The second point is the Battle Pass. When it comes to the Battle Pass, the thing, or Season Pass, sorry. What I like to compare it to is, for example, if you say Path of Exile is free to play, right? It's like, okay, that is true to a certain extent, but if you don't buy stash tabs, at some point the game is going to feel awkward. I think the same can be said for the Season Pass. I think this costs like 15 euros or something, whatever it would cost in your currency. Now you buy this one for 3 months, a season, and you can basically unlock rewards. There's a free one and there's a paid one. If you buy it, obviously you get both. There isn't really anything here that you could call pay to win. There's mostly convenience stuff. Like, for example, instead of auto loot, you're getting advanced auto loot, which includes like 1 or 2 more currencies or something like that. You also get the latest hero. And it gives you a lot of small quality of life stuff that you kind of want if you play hundreds and hundreds of hours in the game. Now, as a contrast though, the stash types you can actually buy with in-game currency. They're right here. So if you're a hoarder, you're probably gonna not spend all that much money on this. But I would definitely say that if you play a lot, this is something that is very recommended to buy, so you can kind of see it as like the price of the game. Now then, let's talk about heroes. If you have the battle pass, you can play whatever hero you want, basically. So you buy the battle pass, this does not concern you. But if you don't want to buy the battle pass, there are, I think, 7 or 8 characters of these that are free to play, completely free to play. One thing I want to note is they do not balance these classes around free to play and non-free to play. Sometimes free to play characters are completely OP. For example, this league, it's very likely that I'm actually gonna start a free to play class. And then there's others that are unlocked by hero token. That is basically these classes that aren't necessarily new, but they have been added at some point, but they're a little bit older. You can unlock these, and the hero tokens, you can usually get exactly 1 character per season. And the rest of the characters right now cost like 10 euros. Once again, if you have the battle pass or like season pass or whatever, this does not concern you, but this is a point where you would have to otherwise buy the hero. Up to this point, I'm fine with buying the battle pass. Everything else doesn't concern me. We have to get into something that does concern me, and that is pets. If you would ask me, Pal, you've been glazing this game quite a bit. Is there anything that you really don't like in this game that you think could harm it over time quite a bit when it comes to reception, when it comes to reviews? Yes, it is the pet system. The pet system is basically the gacha system of this game, and it is straight up pay to win. Now, you can get pets free to play. Yes. And you will get pets free to play, especially if you play for a long time. You will have most of these common and epic pets at level 6 or otherwise. Level 6, level 4, level 3, even the epic pets. The common pets you will max out at level 6 if you play a lot, if you complete all the other side content, all the challenges. But there are some that are just ridiculous, and they are a problem for the game. These are not really them. They're like offensive, defensive. If you would ask me, Pal, how big of a deal are these pets in terms of character power? We talked about all the different character customizations. I would say this is, if we're just talking about character strength, probably like 10-15% of it all. There's so many other multipliers that you will barely feel the difference. But there is one thing, and one thing in particular, and that's not just anything, that's a big thing, which are drop pets. As I talked about earlier, there are drop quantity increases. This gives you more loot, right? This is without pets. This is basically the lower part of this tree. However, if you have drop pets, you can also transform these sides of the tree into more drop quantity. And that could, for example, then look like this. And now this is also drop quantity, flame fuel, which is basically the currency in this game, right? You have this right here as well. This is an epic pet, so you also get to transform these right here. Here you only get to transform the first row, right? And if you have a legendary pet, then you can transform all of them. And some of these pets are pretty damn ridiculous, like for example, Chalk, which straight up gives you another row, and then at the end, even a big notable, which gives you straight up a chance to get additional flame fuel from every mob, regardless of what it does. Some defenders of the game will say, yes, sure, after some time, you can farm these yourself, right? If you play a lot. That is true, but they are purchasable, and they are an issue for the game. Now, the biggest issue, however, are league mechanic pets. So for example, we have the latest league mechanic pet, which is Orphan in Mistville. This one has, I'm not gonna bore you with details, a chance to get more chests in the league mechanic. It also has a lot of other stuff that makes the league mechanic more rewarding. And there is one of these pets every season. The difference between you having this pet and not having this pet can range from minuscule to pretty damn big. And yes, if you're rolling for this pet, you can use the free-to-play currency. And yes, you have more chance while the season is on, so and so. All good and well. However, if you don't get it and you don't want to pay, then you're shit out of luck. And I will give them that. The league mechanics are usually so goddamn rewarding that if you don't have the pet, it's not like it's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be strong. You're still going to do it, and you're going to earn a lot of currency. It's not like it's balanced around this pet. But there's another problem that comes up here, especially when it comes to older league mechanics. And this doesn't only necessarily have to do with pay to win, but I will explain to you what I mean. Let's say, for example, that you want to run City of Eterna nowadays, which is one of the old League mechanics, right? In order to do that, you need certain keys or fragments to open them. If you don't have them, you can't play it, right? Which is pretty fair because it has a ton of rewards. However, since this is now in the economy, what happens is the people who buy them are only the people who have the pet because they get way more out of it. So the key or the fragments are priced around those people. It might not even be worthwhile for you to farm the City of Eterna unless you have that pet. This is kind of how it feeds into it. Another issue with these drop pets is new players. And this is feedback that I've given them before, and this is something they should really take to heart. So if you have a new rotation, a new league cycle, there is this expectation of, okay, everything is equal for everybody. Everybody has a new economy. But that is only partially true because even if I'm free to play, if I've already played the game for 3-4 leagues, I will have those drop pets to start out with. And that will give me an advantage. It's a form of meta progression, which some people really like, but other people who really like that complete reset won't. But yeah, this is basically my no bullshit review of pet system. I think it's horrible. It's the worst thing in the game by far. And everything I said before up to this point, I can just say is positive. But this thing has to change over time. And it's really something I hope they're considering. Now, when it comes to other things I dislike, the only thing I could think about is sometimes the translation is a little bit sloppy when it comes to hero traits. But that has been getting better slowly over time. I will say there's still some problems here or there where you have to test it out. Thankfully, this game actually does have a target dummy, so you can test stuff out, but it can still be frustrating, especially if you're a build maker. And another thing that might frustrate you if you're like me and you like to read through patch notes and you want to see all the changes, I said earlier, there's a ton to read here, but also the translations are really bad. It's like definitely not translated by a person. It has been run through some kind of program, and sometimes the names here don't even add up with what is in the game. So even looking it up on the wiki can be annoying. This is something that I feel like is very sloppy and is not something that will be regarded as positive by anybody who speaks English. And this just frustrates me because I want to stay on top of this game. I want to know what's going on. It's one of these games where I want to read the patch notes. I want to know what the hell changed. But I cannot very often because the translation is very sloppy. And then I just have to scroll through and I just get annoyed. And I feel like this is something that should just be so avoidable. It makes the game feel less polished, more cheap. It is not something that should be an issue. But let's put this all to the test. This game is extremely fun and addictive. Every single league, I am astounded by how good the league mechanics are. Everything feels like intentional. Patches are very fast if they need to be. The game has grown immensely since it first came out. Basically all, like, if I remember back to the max roll spreadsheet that we made like back in season 1, I think over 90% of all the suggestions we gave them have been incorporated in the game. They are not stingy with quality of life. They just want the game to be fun, like I said in the first section. But the character customization is huge. If you're somebody who likes to tinker with stuff, you're going to find everything you need here. It is a ridiculous time sink if you want it to be. There's so many things to do in Endgame. I mean, we've seen that with recent titles where, for example, Diablo 4 is like, oh, there's not enough content. The problems in this game will never be stuff to do. But then we come to the monetization. And as I said in that part, there's certain things that I'm fine with, but there's certain other things that I think are very bad for the game and just give it a bad rep in general. I really hope they can figure something out because especially when it comes to audiences, Western and Eastern audiences are just not the same. However, with that all said, most people who have shown the game, especially softcore players on PoE, absolutely love this game once they give it a shot. UI aside, graphics aside, that is something for you to decide. But when it comes to just the systems and the fun the game provides, this is something I just have to recommend you to at least try out to see if it's for you. But that's about all I got to say. Peace.